How long are you going to allow fear to keep ruling over your life? How long are you going to allow fear to be your God? Or better yet, I should be asking, when are you going to surrender the fear and the anxiety to God, the maker of the heavens and the earth? As someone who struggled with fear and anxiety for 14 years of my life, these are questions that I had to ask myself. So I'm not asking you to point fingers, but I'm asking you the same questions that I found myself in position asking. I had gotten to a place in my life where all I wanted to do was just be numb. I didn't want to have to think. I didn't want to have to do. I just wanted to be numb. And there's nothing worse in this world than having that desire to just want to numb the pain, to numb the thoughts, to just want to go to sleep and not have to wake up. But deep inside, there's just a glimmer of hope that's telling you to hold on. But you were so wrapped up within your fears. You are so wrapped up within the anxiousness that you don't know how to live a better life. I spent 14 years of my life praying for an escape, praying for healing. I spent 14 years of my life praying that I would not be the reason that I never experienced true happiness in this world. As someone who grew up in church, I was just always, God, I know you could take this away. God, I know you can heal me. God, I know you can bring me through this. And if you are anything like me, you've probably said those same prayers. But one thing that I learned when I decided to be intentional about healing, when I decided to be intentional about taking back my peace of mind, was the simple fact that God wanted to walk with me through it. I find that a lot of believers are praying for an escape. A lot of believers are praying for healing. They're praying for a miracle. But guess what? Some of us have to pick up our mats and walk. Some of us have to push our way through a crowd just to touch the hem of his garment. Some of us have to dip in the River Jordan 7 times before we even experience our healing. One thing that Jesus kept repeating was, do not fear, only believe. He didn't provide healing for anxiety. He told them to only believe. And I strongly believe that there are situations where he touches people and he does heal and they never feel it again. But that's not everybody's story. That was not my story, and that might not be your story either. And don't think for a second that I'm trying to dismantle your beliefs about healing and miracles. No, God indeed does work miracles. But what I'm trying to say is your healing might look different. Your deliverance from anxiety might look different. And it's time that you partnered up with God to walk through it. To do that, you first have to surrender. You have to surrender everything that you know so that He can reset your mind. When I decided to get serious, when I decided that I wanted the ultimate healing, that I wanted to be partners with God in my healing process, in getting rid of anxiety once and for all, He took me through 3 years. 3 years of resetting, 3 years of learning everything that I needed to help me live a better life. 3 years. And when He brought me out of those 3 years, He instructed me to reach back. Like He told Peter, Peter, the enemy is trying to sift you like wheat, but I'm praying for you. And I pray that when you come out, you will reach back and that you will bring your brothers through. Once He brought me through, once He helped me be able to walk through finding peace, resetting my mind and surrendering my anxiety to Him, He told me to reach back. Which is why I have made it my life's mission to help others walk through. It doesn't have to take you 3 years like it took me. You can learn to surrender and reset your anxiety and your mind and walk through healing to live in a more peaceful mind. Everything that I learned in those 3 years, I compiled it into a 5-day training. You can learn to reset your mind in 5 days. You can learn to surrender your anxiety to God in 5 days. You can learn to be a less anxious individual in 5 days. What is 5 days in the span of your lifetime? 5 days looks like being able to sleep at the end of every night. 5 days is the difference between you being able to go outside freely. 5 days is the difference between you being able to go to work, Stay at work, sit at work, and have peace at work. 5 days is the difference between you being able to go into crowds. 5 days. Everything that took me 3 years to learn, I've compiled it within a 5 day training so that you can learn that your healing isn't necessarily through a miracle, that your healing comes through a journey of surrender, that your journey comes through a healing of one day at a time. Don't talk yourself out of spending 5 days with God. Don't allow your history to talk yourself out of spending 5 days just to be able to touch his hem. That woman that had the issue of the blood, she suffered for 12 years. 12 years of her life, everybody had told her, oh, we have this pill and it will help you. Oh, do this exercise and it'll help you. You just gotta breathe through it and it'll help you. What would have been the woman's situation if she didn't believe that if she could rush, if she could just touch? What would have been her situation? She spent 12 years afflicted by an issue that left her ostracized. Now, when I say 14 years of my life I lived anxiously, that's just the 14 years of my life I could quantify. The first time I felt fear, I was 2. And I remember it so vividly. And then after that, I was 4. And then again when I was 7. And then 10. And then 14. And then the 14 years is just the consistent number of years that I could quantify. Who knows if the woman with the issue with the blood had been struggling for a lot longer time? What if her cycles lasted a lot longer and then just one day, boom, and never stopped? That was me. It was a little fear here, a little anxiety there, and then boom, one day, January of 2010, it just never stopped. But when I chose to get serious, when I chose to not pray for a miracle, but to work with God and walk with God for a healing, it took 3. He did in 3 years what all the meds that I was prescribed couldn't have done for me. He did in 3 years everything that I couldn't have done for myself. Every single time I would try to turn to something else and try something else, he would always just come back to me and say, keep walking through it with me. I walked through 3 years of healing so that you can learn it in 5. Every tear I cried, every part of it was so that I can reach back and come and get you. I had to walk through it alone, but you don't. If you're ready to push through the crowd, to push through the noise, to touch the hem of his garment, if you are ready to roll up your mat and walk, then join the Reset to Surrender Challenge. Because it's time for you to learn to reframe and reset the way that you process anxiety. It is time for you to learn to give it all to God, because he can take it. He says, come to me, all you who labor and are weary laden, and I will give you rest. It's time for you to let it go. Learn in 5 days what it took me 3 years to overcome. It's time to push. It's time for you to be free. Don't talk yourself out of just 5 days with God. I'll see you inside.